Hello friends, welcome to Creator Based Software Training Center. Let us discuss about customized exception handling by using try and catch. So it is extremely important to handle exceptions. We cannot leave the exceptions as it is. We need to handle all the exceptions. So it is extremely important to handle all the exceptions. The code which may raise an exception is the problematic code, and we have to define that problematic code inside the try block, and its corresponding handling code we have to define inside the catch block. Whatever the problematic code we find, that particular code we need to place it in the try block. Whatever the handling code of this particular problematic code, we need to place it in the catch block. So problematic code we place it in the try block, handling code we need to place it in the catch block. So let us understand this with an example. Let us take this program. What I have written is, I have taken a simple exception divided by 0 error. First we try and execute this program without the try and catch block. Like I have already taken a program. See, class creator base no try catch is the class name. In that system.out.println is the one simple statement in which I am printing before, and the next statement is the problematic statement. 10 by 0 is an arithmetic exception. This should be causing an exception. The other one is after. Let's execute this program. I have compiled it. See, before is the statement before the exception that got printed, and the statement after the exception statement that didn't get printed. So this is the statement which is causing the exception, right? So before this exception statement, whatever the statements are there, that all of those statements will be executed. So here I have taken only one statement which is printing before, so that got printed in the console before we got the print statement before. Later on, the next statement is the exception statement. We didn't get the after statement right after the exception, because this statement is not at all executed. Okay. So we need to handle this, right? This is an abnormal execution actually. After this exception, this didn't get executed. So this is the output statement we got before exception in thread main java.lang.arithmetic exception divided by 0 at so and so line. We can see the abnormal termination of the program, which is not good. We need to handle this. Okay. So we will take another program so that we can handle this, right? So before executing this program, let us understand, in the earlier program, this is the statement which is causing the exception. There is no problem with this print statement or with this print statement either. This is the problematic code. As discussed, what we discussed earlier, whatever the problematic code, we need to place in the try block, the handling code in the catch block. See what I did before, system.out.println, I have taken it normally. I didn't put this statement in the try block. The system.out.println 10 by 0. This is the statement which is causing the exception. So I kept this statement in the try block, and in the catch block we try to handle that exception. So let us try and execute this program. I have taken another class. I have already written this program, system.out.println. Before, I have taken only the problematic statement here in the try block. and in the catch box I have just simply printed 10 by 5, and right after the catch I have taken the another print statement after. Let us execute this program. Program got compiled safely. Now let us run it. See, before is the statement, before the exception, after is the statement, after the exception code, after the try catch code. So we got the whole program executed without any exceptions. See, this is the code. This is the statement after the try and catch. This is the statement before the try and catch. As we got an exception in the try block, the catch block got executed. This is from catch. 10 by 5 is 2. 10 by 5 is 2. This is from catch. 10 by 5 is 2. Okay. See, we can see the normal termination of the program. We handle the abnormal termination. Let us understand the control flow in the try catch. Okay. Let us consider an example like this. Say suppose a try block consists of 3 statements. In order to understand the control flow in try catch, I have taken this example. Okay. Try block contains 3 statements, catch contains 1 statement, and after try and catch I have taken a statement number 5. Let us consider a case 1. If there is no exception, in the above program, then the output all the statements would be executed except the statement 4, right, because there is no exception in statement 1, statement 2, statement 3. Obviously, when there is no exception, catch will never be called. So, if there is no exception, after executing all the 3 statements, it will go after the catch statement. So, statement 5 will be executed. Statements 1, 2, 3 and 5 will be executed with the normal termination. Statement 4 will not be executed because there is no exception raised. So, catch will not be called. This is case 1. Okay. Case 2. If an exception raised at statement 2 and corresponding catch block matched, output would be, if an exception raised at statement 2, statement 2 means in the try block exception raised at statement 2. Okay. Then what would be the output? And what I am telling is case 2, and we are assuming corresponding catch block also matched. Supposing this particular catch block even matched with the corresponding exception statement, then what would happen? Statement 1 would be executing, statement 2 will get an exception. Okay, statement 2 will not be printed, right? It will not be executed because there we got an exception, right? So, it would obviously looking for its corresponding catch. Supposing if that particular catch matched with this exceptional statement, this statement would be executed. So, statement 1, statement 4 and then statement 5 would be the output. See, listen, I have commented it for you. Statement 3 is not executed. Statement 3 is not executed because exception is at statement 2. As and when an exception raised at this particular statement, all those statements within the try block after the exception statement will never be executed. Okay. All those statements after the exception statement in the try block will never be executed. Okay. It is always better to write the problematic code alone within try, but not all the statements inside try. This is the reason, right? What happens is here, like if statement 1 is okay, but we got an exception at the statement 2, immediately it will be looking for its corresponding catch. If a corresponding catch matches, the statements in the cache will be executed, or else it will be abnormally terminated there itself. But what is happening here is all those statements after the exception statements will never be executed. So, it is our responsibility to take care of. If this particular statement is not executed, what is the point of writing a statement after this statement? There would be some purpose of writing a statement, right? So, when we write something, that should be executed. If we write something and if that is not executed, it is an useless statement, right? So, that is not the better way of writing the code. So, we need to take care of it. So, if this particular statement is statement 2 is causing an exception, we should be taking that particular statement in the try block. Instead of taking all those statements in the try block, try and take only the problematic code, only the problematic statement in the try block. See case 3. If an exception raised at statement 2 and corresponding cache block did not match, then only statement 1 will be executed. See, if a particular exception got raised at statement 2, then it would be obviously looking for its corresponding cache. If that particular exception statement doesn't have a matching cache, it only executes this particular statement, and even statement 5 will not be executed. The program gets terminated abnormally then and there itself. I will show you with an example, do not worry. Let us see these 3 cases first. I have taken an example, I will show you them. Let us consider the case 1 first. I have taken a simple statement, statement 1, statement 2, statement 3, arithmetic exception E, standard out println statement 5. Let us run this program. Compiled, okay. Let us run this program. See, we got the output statement, statement 1, statement 2, statement 3, statement 4 is not executed because there is no exception, statement 5 is executed. So, there is no exception statement. So, it catch will never be called, and statement 5 is executed. Okay. Now, let us see, let us take an exception. I am commenting statement 2. Instead of statement 2, I am taking an exception statement here, and observe this cache block. Cache block I have taken arithmetic exception, right. I am throwing an exception which is also an arithmetic exception. So, whenever this particular statements gets executed, it would be looking for its corresponding cache block, right. Corresponding cache block is like arithmetic exception cache block. So, here the exception which is raised is matching with the arithmetic exception. So, obviously, this all the statements which are there in this particular cache will be executed, right. Let us see, let us execute this program and see. Did I save it? I think I did not save it. Let me save this program. I am running. See, statement 1 got executed, then after that what is there? And so it is looking for its corresponding catch. So when 10 by 0 is executed, it is throwing an exception, that is arithmetic exception. Here it will be looking for its corresponding arithmetic exception. So here the catch block is matching, it will come here, it will execute the statement, and it will then execute the statement 4. Is that the output? See, I am in cache statement 4, and then statement 5 will be executed, right? Statement 5 will be executed. Now let us consider the third case. If this particular exception is not there, if arithmetic exception is not there, then what will happen to the code? Let us comment this code. Let us open this. See, first understand the program. We are taking a statement which causes an exception, and that particular exception is arithmetic exception. But what I did, I have commented this arithmetic exception code. I have written a new code, catch null pointer exception E. So this particular exception is not matching with the null pointer exception because it's an arithmetic exception. Now let's run this program and see. We are raising an exception, and we wrote a catch, but that catch exception is not matching with the exception statement. Let us execute this program. See, only statement 1 is executed. Let us try and understand the program. Here what is happening is, this statement is causing the exception. What will it do? It will look for its corresponding matching exception. None of the catch match with the corresponding exception statement, right? It will actually look for arithmetic exception, but arithmetic exception is not there. So it will terminate the program abnormally. Even the statement 5 will never be executed. This is case 3. Okay. Let us come back to the discussion. So if an exception raised at statement 2 and corresponding catch block did not match, so statement 1 will be executed, exception in thread main, corresponding exception related message will be printed, right? Exception in thread main java.lang.arithmetic exception divided by 0 at so on so line. This particular message would be printed. Okay. Even that is not the best practice. Okay. Let us understand case 4. Okay. If an exception raised at statement 4 means, in our program, statement 4 is the statement which is in catch block. If an exception raised at statement 4, the statement in the catch block. If an exception raised at statement 4 or statement 5, then it is always abnormal termination. The statement which is causing exception, that particular statement should be in try block in order to be handled. If you want to handle a particular statement, if you want to handle a problematic, if you want to handle something which is problematic, that problematic code should be enclosed or should be written within the try block. Otherwise, it causes abnormal termination. Okay. Note 1. Within the try block, if anywhere an exception is raised, the rest of the try block won't be executed, even though we handle that exception. Supposing statement 2 is causing exception and we are handling that exception in this particular catch. Now, what does it mean? At statement 2, an exception got raised and we are able to handle that exception in the catch block, and statement 5 will be executed. So cool. But what is happening here? we are never executing statement 3. That is the thing which we are not supposed to do. So, the rest of the try block won't be executed even though we handle that exception. We are missing some code that is to be executed, right? That is not the best practice, right? What is the point of writing that code? Hence, within the try block we have to write only the problematic code, and length of the try block should be as less as possible. We should only be writing the problematic code within the try block, and we should see to it that as less as possible, the less number of statements that are possible that needs to be kept in the try block, only that particular statement should be kept in the try block. Note 2, in addition to try block, there may be a chance of raising an exception inside the catch and finally blocks. We need to be careful while writing. Okay, sometimes even though when we try to handle the exception in the catch block, even that particular statements might cause an exception. So, we should be careful while writing the code in the catch block and even the finally block. Note 3, if any statement which is not part of try block and raises an exception, if any statement which is not part of try block, a statement which is not part of try block and raises an exception, then it is always an abnormal termination. Any statement, whatever the statement may be, if it is not part of the try block and if it is causing an exception, it causes an abnormal termination. Okay, this is all about the different cases that can be causing the try and catch blocks. Okay. Now, let us understand the different methods to print the exception information. Okay. So, throwable class defines the following methods to print exception information. If you want to print what kind of exception that particular statement is raising, we have 3 different methods to print the exceptions. One is print stack trace, the other one is toString, the other one is get message. Okay. Print stack trace prints you this kind of information: name of the exception, the description of the exception, and the stack trace and its corresponding stack trace where it is causing the exception. Like example, java.lang.arithmetic exception is the name of the exception. Divide by 0 is the description of the exception. Stack trace is the line at which the exception got raised in the method call. Okay. toString will give you the name of the exception and also the description of the exception. It won't print you the stack trace. Get message will only display the description of the exception. Okay. Example, divide by 0. Internally, default exception handler will use print stack trace to print exception to the console. Okay. Let me show you all these methods by printing in the same program. I have taken this program, class created by print exception methods. What I did is I have taken an exception, arithmetic exception, divided by 0. I have taken this exception and I just wanted to show you all these 3 different methods: print stack trace, toString method, and get message. How we can use these methods to print the exception message. So, I have taken simple system.out.print statements to print the exception message. E.print stack trace will print you the entire exception message, and then toString method e.toString and e.get message. Let me execute this program for you. Compiled. Let us run this program. See, print stack trace is giving you the entire message, like the name of the exception, description, and this stack trace. So, name of the exception java.lang.arithmetic exception, description is divide by 0, and the stack trace at so and so class methods at the line number 4, and E is giving the name of the exception and description, right? Because when we call E, it internally calls toString method. Okay. Name of the exception and the description of the exception, toString method. Java.lang dot arithmetic exception divided by 0. And get message will simply give you the description divided by 0. Get message will give you the description. toString method will give you the exception, name of the exception, and also the description. Stack trace will give you the entire exception, including the stack trace. Okay. Let us understand try with multiple catch blocks. We can have multiple catch blocks for a single try. Okay. The way of handling an exception is varied from exception to exception. Hence, for every exception type, it is highly recommended to take separate catch blocks. That is, try with multiple catch blocks is always possible and recommended to use. Using of multiple catch blocks is a recommended practice. Instead of using a generalized exception like this, try and exception is a generalized one, right? Generalized of all the exceptions, right? It's like a parent one. Instead of using this, be specific. If a particular exception is causing an arithmetic exception, let us write catch arithmetic exception E and then enclose that close that catch block. If an exception is causing a null pointer exception, write that catch block. If something is causing an SQL exception, write that one. And finally, you can write this parent exception. The above approach is not at all recommended, right? This is a generalized exception. This particular statement works for all kinds of exception, which is not the best way of writing the code. This is how we are supposed to write. So, suppose we have written some problematic code within the try block. There might be a chance of raising an exception. So, that particular exception may be an arithmetic exception. That particular exception may be an SQL exception or file not found exception, or it could be any exception. This way of writing is the best approach. Okay. Now, coming to the order of catch blocks. If try with multiple catch blocks are present, then the order of catch blocks is very important. We have to take child first and then the parent. Otherwise, we will get compile time error saying exception XYZ has already been caught. See, let us understand this one. This is the parent exception. Okay, this is the parent exception. These are all child exceptions: arithmetic exception, SQL exception, file not found exception. All these are child classes of exception. Let us understand this one. In this program, we have taken some statement divided by 0, and what we did is we have written the parent class parent exception first, and then the later we have taken the child exception. First we have written the parent, then we have written the child. This is not the way of writing the program, right? We should not write the parent class catch block first and then the child exception class next. This is not the best way of writing. It causes an exception saying exception has already been caught. So, order of the catch blocks is also very important. Child class should be first, parent should be last. See, order of catch blocks is very important. Child exception should be first, then parent exception. Example, I have taken this program system.out.println 10 by 0, it is causing an arithmetic exception. So, what catch arithmetic exception E, then catch exception E is the parent, this is the parent class, this is the child class. So, we need to write the child class catch block first, then we are supposed to write the parent class. The above is the correct order of exceptions in catch. We can't declare two catch blocks with the same exception. We will come to this point again. As far as this program is concerned, whenever you use multiple catch blocks, we are supposed to write the child class first, then comes parent class. This order is very important. Parent exception class should be last, child exception class should be first, then we don't get any error. If we reverse the order, we will get this error, exception java.lang.arithmetic exception. If that particular exception is arithmetic exception, then has already been caught. We will be getting an error like this. Okay. Next, we can't declare two catch blocks with same exception. If we do so, we will get compile time error. We can't declare two catch blocks with same exception. Okay, like we have defined two catch blocks with same exception. What will happen then? If this particular statement is causing arithmetic exception, what will it do? It will look for its corresponding catch block. Then it finds this catch block and this particular catch block will be executed. But what is happening to this particular catch block? This will never be called, right? This particular catch block will never be executed. Again, for this writing the code in this way will throw you an exception. Exception java.lang.arithmetic exception has already been caught, because this is already caught, right? What's the point of writing the same catch again? When this particular code can handle this exception, what's the point of writing this particular catch again? There is no point of writing the same catch block again, right? When this particular catch block can handle this particular exception, there is no point of writing this particular catch block again. Okay. Let us write this one. I will comment this one. I will write the same code again. Let us execute this program. First of all, compile this. See, has already been caught. We got an exception, right? Because already this particular exception is already defined. So, obviously, we will be getting an exception message saying like has already been caught. That is not the best way of writing the code. Okay. Thank you guys. See you in the next class.